Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, July 14th, 2021. We're back with Tetra Bio-Pharma TBPMF over the counter, Dr. Guy Chamerlan. Guy, welcome back.
Yes, hi Jack, glad to be back.
Guy, you got a lot of exciting news. We're going to get into everything in just a moment. For anybody that's brand new to a program, our goal is to bring you those stocks which have a 10x to 100x upside potential. That's what we call it, the next super stock live stream. And we've had a whole bunch of them in the past 18 months. 7 or 8, I think it might be 8 stocks already that are up between 10x and 50x. And looks like Tetra is on the way to at least being a 10 bagger. You're up already about, well, at the peak, you're up about 3x, and it's come back a little bit. Now we're going to see what the path is to getting to that 10x or higher. We've had some of your investors that have been on our program have, they've had, saying that your stock could be that literally could be that 100 bagger. So we're going to find out, get an update, and we'll open it up for questions with the audience. And again, the highlight of this is the audience questions. So guys, please, I
hope they brought their cell phone notification. Last session we had together, I told them to bring their cell phone on vacation so they wouldn't miss your show.
Yeah, so exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure half the audience, especially all the Canadians, are watching this on their phone by the pool or at the lake. By the cottage. So so make sure to everybody ask your questions and decide for yourself if Tetra is going to be the next 10 bagger. So Guy had very significant news this week with the quick sleep. I keep getting these names. The Reborn trial. The Reborn trial. It's funny. We were just talking before about the different names. Great news with the Reborn trial. I think which we kind of want to get into. It looks like you're accelerating the trial, right?
Yeah.
And this is the opioid. This is the opioid alternative trial.
Yeah. So Reborn is I guess basically a blockbuster trial in the sense that it's the first time a company goes head to head against an immediate release opioid, basically, with a cannabis derived drug. I mean, this is really significant when you consider what's going on with the opioid crisis, with the states going after various companies with settlements. But like our internally we say, that's nice that you get a settlement in court, but what's there for patients? What do you have to offer them? Another slow acting or fast relief opioid? There's nothing. So for us, go ahead.
So essentially, so Tetra is going basically head to head against oral opioids like Oxy, all that stuff.
Oxycodone, but the immediate release, the ones that doctors give to you claiming it's going to be fast acting. We'll get rid of your pain fast. The total global opioid market is a $32 billion market. The immediate release segment is half of it. It's about $16 billion. I mean, this is not insignificant, despite the appetite for finding alternatives. When you see that there's still, they expect by 2027 to have a $32 billion global opioid market. There's really not much energy going, in my opinion, towards changing this growth trend. It still has a growth of about 2.5%, which is significant. But put yourselves in the patient's shoes. I mean, there still is no alternative. So what we're developing is that. But one of the things we want, I don't want to claim simply against fast acting or fast relief morphine. I want the whole class. I want to show the world that when you take quick sleep, you're going to get a faster relief than all of that class of immediate release opioid. So what I need to do, I need to be able to determine my sample size for my pivotal trial. The FDA is going to want me to include, at least 3 drugs, which we're doing. And then they're going to say, okay, you'll need so many patients. And the statistician has to show that. But if I just did, say, the immediate release morphine, I'd have only data on 1. So I'd have to gamble what my patient size would have to be to get it, a statistically powered pivotal trial. The other thing, too, you have to look at, and this is more as a shareholder, if a company is going to accelerate the enrollment of a trial, which is basically the outcome of what's happening, that means I'm going to burn my money faster, which means I'm going to get to the end of this trial faster. So if my confidence was low, or I was seeing, say, negative indicators, I wouldn't do this. I'd want to do the opposite. I'd want to delay my progression, because obviously, I'd want to go back to the market and raise money before having a negative. So you're not going to do anything like we did if there are negative signals.
Okay, so that's a key point here. So I mean, again, nobody accelerates a trial unless there's already some good data.
Yeah, good indicators, correct.
So apparently, okay. So you started when? You started about a month ago, roughly, with the patient.
First patient was basically enrolled. Yeah, first week of June.
Okay. So looks like things are going. They're going well enough that you're expanding to go against the whole class of opioids. It's a $32 billion market opportunity, which is very compelling. So basically, this would be the only cannabinoid-based drug with pain relief.
Correct.
Okay.
For the relief, and basically showing speed of relief. Orally, you're not going to get the speed. So an oral cannabinoid, for example, is not going to get the fast release that we're going to see. I mean, by inhalation, the relief comes, the euphoria comes within minutes, and that's what a patient is going to experience. So the pain, say, was at 100 degrees before. Now, when you're going to take our drug, we're going to drop it, because we're going to change your perception of your pain. So you're living with pain, you're suffering. I'm going to change that. I'm not really going to, do what the opioid does. I'm really going to change how your body perceives the pain. So now it hurts you less. So that is really going to drag down the number of opioids you're going to need to get, the long-term relief. And that's really key. We see this drug as really being able to be used, with every single analgesic, because we're going to change pain perception. And that is key. And if you think about it, if you go back to the literature and you look at, cancer patients would come into, some of the surveys that they were doing with medical cannabis, and they had, they wanted to die. They'd just been diagnosed with a terminal disease, no longer any chemotherapy or radiotherapy options for their cancer. They get on to inhaled medical cannabis, and all of a sudden they wanted to live, because their perception of their suffering changed. And that's what the euphoria does to you. And that's where I find that society has underestimated the potential of an inhaled cannabinoid drug. It's basically what centuries of people have been using cannabis for relieving their suffering. And that's key. Quality of life, how you live your last moments in a terminal cancer, that's essential. You can go back home, spend time with your family, solve what you have to, maybe even enjoy a last vacation or do something you've always wanted to do with a quality of life. And that's what we're doing with our trials.
Okay, but essentially this is going to be it's going to go beyond just the terminal cancer. You're going to essentially you're going to be going after the whole pain relief market, right?
Well, think about it. We were talking about before the show, why do we name trials? Reborn, Plenitude, and that's because physicians remember clinical data by trial names. So we'll hear a physician talk about the GATE trial that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Here will be the Reborn trial. But what they're going to remember, Reborn proved that quick sleep provided fast relief and a change of perception of pain. And that's it. They don't need to remember anything else. Then it's just take out your prescription pad and prescribe. And that's it. And that's key, because they're going to forget it was maybe a cancer patient, and now they'll do it to somebody with basically a back pain or something.
Okay, right. So I mean, so that makes sense. The name makes sense. Quick sleep, quick relief. Okay, and then they expand. Yeah. So this incredible opportunity. And again, basically, so I think the main thing that
being reborn once you get on quick sleep
and reborn,
you're regaining your life that you had lost because of basically your suffering.
Okay, so we're gonna get into a couple of questions here. I think the main thing that probably everybody wants to know is, okay, so assuming this trial goes well, what's the path to getting to commercialization? Assuming we're getting some progress, how far are we from generating revenues with this?
For us, basically our goal is to finish at least, not from an interim data, because obviously when we did the amendment, we also included a statistical analysis at the, how could I say, at an interim point on Reborn for internal decisions. But obviously our goal is to have finished at least the majority of the patients this year. That's our target. And then obviously next year, starting the pivotal trial to be able to put us in a position to file the new drug application in early 2023. That's our goal. If I get my interim with positive data, you can imagine that, you know, my regulatory suitcase, we're off talking to the regulators to say, see my result. Now let's talk seriously about taking this to the market. And that's the business we're in.
Okay, so I think from the investor's perspective, the way to kind of look at this is okay. So you know the market opportunity is 30 billion plus 32 billion. You're saying for oral as a quick fast acting pain relief, right? $32 billion market opportunity. You're roughly 18 months, 24 months out maybe before assuming everything goes well before commercialization. Obviously, as the clinical trials progress, as it becomes more and more de-risked, the valuation should increase, because right now I mean the market cap is really nothing. I mean, what typically companies that are going after such significant market opportunities where they're like one of maybe the only product of its kind, what would be the typical valuation of a company like that in the pharma space? Are we talking about north of $1 billion?
You'd be talking about $1 billion company. I mean, that's
right.
Basically what just Quick Sleep represents. Especially we have patents, so it's not a, how could I say, a not patented drug. We have composition of matter as well, patents. I know a lot of people were, they saw that some of the examiners, I saw that in social media where people are questioning, okay, what does it mean when an examiner challenges, say, some of the claims? Well, that's normal. That's, it's in everything we do in drug development. I mean, the FDA challenges our endpoints. It's up to us to answer them and show them how novel our claims are and our research. But it's also a negotiation. The examiner of a patent knows very well that, Tetra's trying to get, let's say, as wide coverage as possible of its claims, and their job is to narrow it down as much. So it's, you give some and they give some, and that's the way all patents are done. It's a normal process. So nothing to date is, how could I say, there's no negative signals on any of our patents for inhalation. So we're confident we'll get our patent granted, and then people will be infringing our patents. And that's what a pharma wants. A pharma wants to see that solid IP with solid clinical data and obviously a market. Well, I'll comment one thing. Tetra's looking at pain relief through changing the perception of suffering. But there's a lot more than pain that brings suffering to patients, like those cancer patients that I told you that, if you're dying of cancer because you see no alternative in terms of chemotherapy, no therapy, or even radiotherapy, well, that's not pain. That's kind of like depression. So the potential of a drug like Quick Sleep goes beyond just pain. So the market size is actually pretty large.
Okay, so that's So that's an interesting. It's not just the pain; it really covers the whole kind of spectrum.
Whole population in our interest, obviously, is cancer patients, but there are many other diseases out there that physicians may want to try Quick Sleep and see how it helps their patient. Because in the end, that's what the physician's job is doing, being sure there's a safe drug with proven efficacy, but then they'll try it off-label because we understand the mechanism and we can explain it.
Okay, so the off-label. So once the drug is approved, the off-label possibilities are massive. I mean, you could be going after I don't know, 50 billion market opportunities more.
Yeah, easily. I mean, look at the number of people who suffer in our society. It's tremendous. It is very tremendous, and we give them drugs that have so massive side effects, and it changes how they function in a day. And I remember back in 2018 when we were talking with the regulators about, before we had, shown them our phase 1 clinical data of Quick Sleep, one of the issues they were saying, Guy, before you go forward into patients, you're going to have to show us that you don't affect the functionality of the patient in their day. Of course, you're sitting back there going like, okay, so opioids don't negatively affect them. SSRIs, antidepressants don't negatively affect them. So you don't say a word, obviously, but ultimately, that's what I had to show them, that my patients are going to be able to function. But if you're a patient, that's what you want. I want to take something to relieve my suffering, but I also want to be able to take care of my family, go do my shopping, go do whatever I do. And you can't do it if you're, kind of like on very strong opioids. You really can't function. Same thing, many people on antidepressants don't sleep at night. They have a lot of serious side effects. So if I don't have that, the profile of my drug is going to make it that patients will want it. And with an actual drug approval, physicians will feel comfortable prescribing it because it's safe and with a recognized drug quality that nobody else will have.
Okay, so there's actually so there's a couple of things actually which the value drivers for this drug is obviously fast acting pain relief. You don't have the addiction issues and the functionality, which I think of it. The functionality is the key thing. I mean, in other words, if somebody's taking opioids for pain relief, they really can't function. No, I mean they can't really go about their day to day.
Have you ever taken some of those opioids for any pain? I mean, I couldn't be talking to you today. I wouldn't be able to do my job in regulatory affairs. You're basically numb. I mean, it's unbelievable, the negative effect. Our society doesn't really care because they'll put you on, unemployment insurance or, some medical insurance, but you become, in my opinion, non-functional. But at the age of 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60, you still want to have a functional life. And your brain is part of it. You don't want to be numbed by a drug. And quick sleep is not going to have that negative part. And we're talking about, like I said, analgesics, but look at the SSRIs. The SSRIs have I'd say a traumatic effect on many patients. Many patients stop their medication because they don't tolerate those drugs.
Okay, so basically, so right now the market cap is roughly 100 million US approximately. As the company goes, as it gets closer to that commercialization, I mean, do you think we could be trading at 2 billion, 2.5 billion valuation, which is kind of in line with what
just with quick sleep? Easily.
Yeah, just with that.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, based on pure comparisons.
Yeah, very, very easily.
So basically, it would be a 20x from here over the next, let's say, I mean, it could happen fast, but really 18 months. So I see that as one of the real catalysts here. So again, and you have, there's multiple catalysts here, which is what we like. This is why you're part of this. Is one of the things we like with the next super stock program is companies which have those multiple catalysts. They're at the inflection point, big market opportunities, no question. You're already past the inflection point. I mean, this already, the train has left the station. So now we're hitting on the catalyst. Before we get on to the ARDs and all the other stuff, let me just get to a couple more. Let me just get to some audience questions here.
Sure.
On the current stuff. Okay, so Ethan asking, when do we anticipate trial data being released to the public?
Well, typically trial data itself being released, it's after the regulators have seen it. We can't go out and say something without the regulators having seen it because they'll be upset. It'd be kind of like, one of your friends telling something you did to your parents and, they're waiting for you at home kind of saying, okay, well, you didn't tell me about this type of thing. So you kind of clear that with them. Also, during a trial, we also don't reveal data because the FDA, for example, could slap us. They could stop the trial and they say, well, you're using this to try and encourage patients to come in to take your drug that's more effective, according to you, which we haven't seen the data. So you got to be very, very careful. Even the ethics review boards could also stop our trial and say, you guys are using news releases to encourage patients to come and use an unproven drug, basically. So we're very cautious. Most pharmas are. You can't do that. Most are silent. So when we get events like we did this time, amending the protocol, that's a great time to show your color and show how confident you are on a drug and on a trial. But that's beyond, I can't go beyond that.
Okay. Question: how many patients is Tetra? Are you anticipating putting through the phase 2 trials?
Okay. Well, to date, we have multiple patients, obviously, on the drug. Some have finished their, quick sleep arm already. We have others, obviously, before the amendment. We had others in screening, so that's going very, very well. And obviously explaining exactly how many patients are enrolled, that's not something that is in the public domain, so that we do not answer. That also would tell a pharma how fast we're moving and how fast we're going to get there, so we don't reveal those sorts of things. But yeah, that's in terms of the enrollment, that's as much as I can say.
Okay. Interesting question. Okay, so the right, the in the U.S. you have the kind of that right to try, right? So does that expand the number of people that can actually start using?
No, actually, a phase 2 has no implications on a right to try. You can do a right to try act as soon as you finish the phase 1. So we finished the phase 1 in 2017. So patients have been eligible for quick sleep under the right to try since, I'd say, at least 2018.
Okay, so pretty much anybody can use quick sleep right now.
Yeah, they can make a request to a company, and then they have to find a physician that's willing to prescribe it. But yes, the Right to Try Act in the United States, I don't know if any other jurisdictions do that. Canada has a different approach. The physician first has to go to Health Canada, but in the United States, if I understand correctly, the right to try, the patient approaches the company and then finds a physician. So it's a very, very different process. Much more in favor of patients than, say, here in Canada.
Okay. Okay. Then you have the Reduvo. Oh, we're gonna get into the Reduvo in just a minute. I mean, the big thing with Reduvo is that this is the for the nausea relief, right? For cancer. This is the drug
for nausea and basically weight gain in HIV patients.
Okay. So let's get into that. So Reduvo this is going to go on the market in Canada in the third quarter. So you're actually going to start generating revenues with Reduvo.
As soon as it gets approved, yeah, we begin selling. Obviously, we're going to have activities in, let's say, the near future, where we'll begin preparing what we call the launch. So that's normal in activities. At that point, when we begin to prepare that, obviously, as a public company, we'll have to announce, kind of our plans to the market. So at one point, the market will hear us coming out and saying, here's our plan for the commercialization of Reduvo. That's pretty standard. For me, Reduvo, and I think most people in capital markets would share my opinion. Some would probably have even a stronger positive opinion than mine. But for a public company that's a biotech, getting your first drug approval is a key milestone, because it shows the market that you can deliver a prescription drug to the market. Because doing the science is one thing, doing the manufacturing is another, but the investor doesn't see the boxes being checked because they can't come in the company, but the regulator does. So when you get that first drug approval, the company kind of gets a rubber stamp saying you passed. You passed the safety, you passed the quality, and you passed the efficacy. Now you can sell. So that's big confidence to a potential investor. So the whole is waiting for what happens with Reduvo.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a massive validation. So I think that's actually that's going to be one of the catalysts that's really going to really impact the stock price as we get closer to that commercialization date, which is now we're already in August almost, right? So we're talking about basically 3-4 months.
Oh yeah. And to date, we've had no negative signals from the regulator. We don't expect any, because like I said, our whole cannabis regulations are based on the efficacy of dronabinol. So I can't see them coming up with a negative question when you build your whole, I'm going to say, regulatory structure of medical cannabis off of dronabinol.
Okay, so we're about 3 to 4 months away, but the market in Canada for that drug is what? It's not that big. But you have a lot of label use.
80 billion market potential, 80 million potential market.
80 million. So it's not huge. I mean, it's significant.
It's not huge, but it's also an opportunity for us. Look at what we're doing with Quick Sleep. The whole efficacy of Quick Sleep is, make it simple for, the audience, is the efficacy of the euphoria of THC. Well, you're going to get that from Reduvo. It's a THC drug as well. So I'm going to be able to get in front of physicians, and I am going to talk to them about my Quick Sleep studies, because if I'm going to pay, a representative to go to a physician and pitch Reduvo, he also is going to want to know what I do for a living as a company. So I'll say, yes, we're developing this, and he's going to be very interested he or she actually be very interested in hearing about my Reborn trial.
you're doing a lot of groundwork. Basically, you're laying the ground for.
It allows us to exactly be kind of laying the groundwork for eventually when we come with quick sleeve, the market's going to be ready for it. And you have to do the transition. And they're also going to, they're going to see what we're doing against opioids. So they're going to be maybe tempted to try Reduvo against opioids, just like we're doing with quick sleeve.
This is what I want to ask. Okay, so Reduvo. So in terms of off-label use, what's in reality? I don't know if so. What exactly would be the difference between Reduvo and quick sleeve? And there's like somebody
speed of delivery. Reduvo is all.
How much of a difference?
Reduvo will have its peak around 1 to 2 hours, depending on your oral absorption, whereas quick sleeve is 5 minutes. So very different.
Okay.
You won't be able to use it the same way, but in pain management, you can certainly start to use it appropriately. And we're seeing more and more, as when we announce the Reduvo, for example, some physicians call us and ask questions when you're getting your DIN, because the majority of physicians don't want to prescribe. Well, they don't really prescribe medical cannabis, but they don't want to recommend it. They're concerned because, how could I say, the drug doesn't have that rubber stamp. And they're legally liable if you give something to a patient or recommend it to them if it harms them. So you don't know the quality and you don't know the safety of the actual brand. Whereas when you get the rubber stamp of a DIN, you're comfortable. But we're seeing these physicians, they tell you they have seen patients on opioids that have taken medical cannabis and they are seeing improvements in their patients. So we're actually seeing an opening of those physicians kind of be very, very interested in getting quick sleeve, and they'll take Reduvo before, because Reduvo will have a DIN.
Okay, so Reduvo, in terms of the level of pain relief, is it after, let's say Reduvo after 2 hours, whatever, is it the same level? Does it deliver the same level of pain relief as quick sleeve at peak?
At peak, it'll be very different, because the peak is going to be more of a potato-shaped curve, whereas me, it spikes. So quick sleeve is like a spike. It comes really up fast to your brain, gives you the euphoria very rapidly, and relieves you rapidly. Whereas Reduvo will be more of a gradual progression. But keep in mind, it's changing your perception of pain. So Reduvo might not be successful in breakthrough pain, which is the most serious one. But in a regular, say, cancer pain, it'll probably help, because it's going to change, again, how the patient perceives the pain, which means you can give less opioids. And that, for a physician, is very important.
What about in terms of pain, just general pain for, people, whatever issue that they have, maybe they have some surgery or whatever it is. I mean, would they be able to get off-label use for Reduvo? Oh
yeah, I mean, once it's approved, the physician can prescribe it off-label easily. Okay. And if you're a physician and your patient tells you, well, I'm going to go use medical cannabis, and of Reduvo, well, you're going to want your patient to be on something that has a recognized quality and recognized safety. So you're going to give them the prescription, for Reduvo, because you want to take cannabis. Fine, here's a pharma version of it, and that's what's going to happen in practice. Physicians are going to hear our science, because remember, our strategy, Plenitude, is the name of a trial. The results will be attached to Plenitude in the literature, and Reborn, speed of relief, will be linked marketing-wise to Reborn. So physicians will remember that. And that's part of the strategy. So like you're saying, Reduvo allows us to get out there, build the groundwork. But once we have that groundwork with Reduvo, once quick sleeve starts to hit, Plenitude results start to hit, we're just educating physicians by the normal, means of the medical literature.
Okay, so basically, but Reduvo can really, in a way, it could start going, up against, opioids, pretty much from the get go. I mean, once you're on for many cases, I mean, people have pain issues, whatever it is, they're using opioids now. They could use Reduvo for a lot of that.
Correct. You certainly want to try it, just like you'll try. People have tried various drugs on a patient, and many times. Here in Quebec, there's probably at least 50% of our prescriptions are off-label. So a physician tries the best thing they can to help a patient and not do harm. So for sure, if you don't have experience as a physician, eventually you'll hear some of your colleagues tried Reduvo, or tried medical cannabis and it helped the patient, then you'll be less hesitant. Okay, let me try Reduvo. Normally, they say it takes about 2 or 3 times for a physician to try something and then begin to prescribe it in practice, because now they've seen 2 or 3 patients with positive outcome. And if you look at the pharmas, how they do their, why they give samples to physicians for free, that's what they're doing. Here's a free sample, give it to your patient. It takes a couple of months, patient comes back, physician sees, oh, it worked, tries another one. Oh, it worked, and eventually, here's the prescription pad coming out. That's how the system works.
Right. So it takes a while to get that market traction.
You have to build.
Okay, so it's interesting. So really, I think that the valuation of Tetra should. I think we should definitely start seeing some kind of movement as you're getting closer to the Reduvo commercialization. So the next 3-4 months, again, the initial market is only 80 million, but the off-label use could be, I don't know, $1 billion. I mean,
it's the off-label can be that, but we have what we call the PP02, which is the Reduvo Adversa, which is our second version, which is a sustained release version of Reduvo. So basically, it's going to have less side effects. So we know when we come up with that one's going to be global. We're going after basically the whole world in terms of a market. That's going to be a game changer too, because we're getting out there. We'll have Reduvo first to market in Canada. You can come up in 2 years, with your own version if you want to copy us. That's fine. But I'm going to be ready and hit you with something that's going to be safer. And obviously, price-wise, we'll be competing. But this is the game. So for us, we've positioned ourselves to have a series of drugs that will hit. People always ask, don't you guys have too many drugs on the table? And I said, no, you have to look at the strategy. A pharma doesn't want to buy a single molecule type of thing. What's a strategy to fight pain? What's a strategy to keep and stay as the leader in this field? So we have Reduvo, followed by Reduvo Adversa. In parallel, quick sleep, fast relief. And that's key. Nothing stops you from even giving both together. So you're going to see totally the pipeline where we're going. So as a pharma, we've positioned ourselves to be an attractive, kind of pipeline even for a pain pharma, because we have the solution. Fast relief for severe acute pain, and using Reduvo, even Adversa, slow sustained release for people that can't even swallow. So multiple positionings of our drug. And we only work on Reduvo Adversa because we're too small. But we've advanced it to a point where the day we want to trigger it and bring it to the market, we can.
Okay, so essentially, it's a full suite targeting the pain market.
Yes, all protected with intellectual property, which was key.
Okay.
You have to build, like you're saying, build the foundation to sell, build the foundation to develop, build the foundation to ensure your investors are protected. Because if I have patents and I'm protected, sure, you can go out as another company and do something, but you'll get this nice lawsuit and you'll have to pay me royalties. Go ahead if you want. My shareholders will certainly love to see a nice royalty check coming in.
Right. No, it'll be very compelling. Let's talk about the other products.
The $1 billion market.
What's that?
I said the other $1 billion market.
The other multi-billion, yeah, because again, it's interesting. You're going after what, 4 multi-billion-dollar opportunities. Actually, technically, it's more, but really
more. But as a small company, yeah.
Yeah, so it's incredible that the stock is where it is right now, because look, we've had companies very similar, maybe slightly more advanced where they were, and actually no, it could be a very interesting pathway. Look, one of the companies we had that we introduced to investors about 18 months ago was Cytodyne, and that stock went from 50 cents to $10 in about 18 months. Not really that much different. The pipeline was not that much different. They were kind of getting closer to commercialization and all that, So that became, I think, a $2 billion market cap at the peak. So I could kind of see the same type of 20x happening here between now and that next 12 to 18 months. It could be, there's kind of a path for the stock to be that, 20 bagger, not even 10, but really a 20x. Okay, so and that kind of ties into the ARDS sepsis.
Yeah, so the ARDS to me was pretty impressive I'll go back to the beginning with our relationship with George Mason University and Target Pharmaceuticals. And, a lot of shareholders were like questioning, why on earth would you do this relationship with this, unknown biotech and, American university? For us, I've been developing drugs my whole career since 1995. And, developing a drug is a lot more than just looking at the first indication. I want to sell it to GSK. I want to sell it to Merck. I want to sell it to Pfizer. But they don't just want to buy it for a small $2 billion market. They want it for a much bigger market. But if I want to protect that market, I have to lay patents down. I have to be sure I patent the use in multiple indications. And the patent examiner is not going to say, oh, yes, Tetra, you can patent it for all diseases. It doesn't work that way. You need data to defend your patents. So we went out and we developed a relationship with George Mason, and they had the BL3 labs. Well, here in Canada, I can't go and infect animals like I want. It doesn't work that way. We don't have that facility. They had, so that was interesting. We knew for SARS-CoV, we had to, to get in there. One is to learn more about your drug. How does your drug work? And then we expanded our research scope. We did a news release on that, and people are like, why on earth are they looking at other viruses? Well, maybe if I'm looking at other viruses, because I had the suspicion that my anti-inflammatory was also antiviral. And George Mason University, when they did their news release a couple of weeks ago, that's basically what they came out and said. They basically proved in their labs, infecting with other viruses, that the ARDS drug is not just an immunomodulator. It actually stops viral replication. Now that is major. But if you look at their news release and their actual comment, and I think you had one of our shareholders actually come on your show and comment about that news release, if I'm not mistaken. But if you go back and you look at what they actually said, when it was used in combination with antiviral drugs, the outcome was even more significant. Now, if I was a big pharma, I would want to know what that meant in more detail. But basically what it means, if I combine, say, antiviral A that's on the market, maybe close to expiring on its patent. Well,
so it'd be like a cocktail.
Like a cocktail, put both drugs together, you're getting an exponential result that it's even more efficacious. That is significant to any big pharma company out there. That's not minor. And that's the sort of data I need. I can't go knock on GSK or Merck's door and say, hi, I got this, immunomodulator drug that we think is going to work in viral diseases. The more I can show them how it works, the more they're going to be interested in sitting down and listening. Then they're going to say, okay, what's your IP? What's your intellectual property? And that's what, we try and do with them. But what I found amazing, and to me, when I saw the results from George Mason, what impressed me, I spent my career in pharma, and my PhD is in clinical toxicology. Basically, I did it in animals. And early in my career, I worked in drug safety. And we'd hear all the animal groups really criticizing, why you guys need animals, why you do this to animals. George Mason created, I call them mini brains, these neurospheres, really impressive technology. I think they're the first in the world to do that. And they're now testing viruses and bacteria on I call them mini brains, because they get infected like an animal. So they don't need to use live animals. They can do this in vivo inside a lab. We call it ex vivo with these tissues, and do drug development, drug screening, test new drugs, test combinations. From an ethics point of view for society globally, I think what George Mason University and I think their NIH counterparts did is fantastic from a drug discovery and drug development point of view. And to me, that news was really, really under publicized, because it's major advancement.
How big is the market for antivirals?
Oh, you're talking about it again. I mean, if you look, that includes COVID, that includes AIDS, that includes influenza, name the viruses. Many, many, many out there, and many from eye infections, ear infections. I mean, it's probably over $100 billion. It's a major market. And the problem, I remember when I worked in pharma, we worked with monkeys, and you could get one of the B simplex viruses, herpes, and there's no antiviral treatment for it. And the drug they would prescribe to anybody who got scratched or bitten by a monkey was asclavir, even though they knew that there was no efficacy. So they would still try it because there was nothing else that worked. Now, maybe acyclovir would have worked in combination with ARDS against the virus. So this is what it's opening this door. Doesn't mean Tetra is going to go into clinical trials in antivirals. But for me, if I come to a physician now, you have a choice between 3 drugs for COVID. Say the 4th wave hits. Who are you going to take? One that's purely an anti-inflammatory, or one that when you're going to combine it with remdesivir, maybe the outcome in the patients is going to be much better because of the combined effect. That's key. And, I have people that call me, shareholders, potential investors, and they say, why are you taking your time? And I tell them, look, when you develop a drug, you have to develop it right. When you go too fast, it's like driving a car at full speed at 200 miles an hour. What happens when you turn a corner? If you go too fast, you can hit a wall. I think some of the trials, some of the drugs in COVID failed because they went too fast, didn't have the right endpoints, didn't understand how the drug worked. Well, the day Tetra puts $1 on a COVID trial is because we're sure we're going to win. I don't like getting into trials that I don't know if I'm going to win. If you look at our history, we started Reborn after we knew we'd win. We did the pharmacodynamics. We knew we were fast. We knew we changed perception of pain. Now it's proving it. Well, COVID trials is going to be the same thing. Tetra will invest $1 the day it knows it's going to win. And that to me is key. And I learned every time one of those companies has failed, we've read the trials. We've read their endpoints. Because you only fail if you miss your primary endpoint. You can have 100 secondary endpoints, meet all of them, and your trial still fails if you miss your primary endpoint. The game in clinical development is on your primary endpoint. You miss it, you lose. Game over with the regulator and game over with the prescriber. In actual fact, all the prescriber is going to remember is you failed the primary endpoint. So I don't want that. And the more I can sell my drug, and the other aspect we've been working at, obviously I have to position it. Okay, business-wise. Dexamethasone is cheap. Dexamethasone is about the only anti-inflammatory that has made some, how could I say, success in treating COVID patients. So basically, why would you want to give a more expensive prescribed drug than something that's cheap, generic? So I have to show those arguments, not for a trial, but for a market potential, again, to excite a pharma. Well, dexamethasone is immunosuppressive. We've perfectly shown the world we're not immunosuppressive. And the proof of that is when FDA and Health Canada revised our protocols, they said you can go to an adaptive. We revealed to the market, well, we're giving it in combination with dexamethasone. So that is a signal that I've been able to convince the regulator I'm not immunosuppressive. So there's one, check mark. Tetra is not immunosuppressive, so I can give it longer. I can give it earlier to prevent ARDS in the COVID patients or influenza patients. And now I'm antiviral. So maybe if I give it ARDS 003 even earlier to a COVID patient, not only am I safe from an immunosuppression point of view, I also may kill the virus along, say, with remdesivir. So, certainly going forward as we develop a drug, it's complex, but this is what we do. And to us, it's very exciting to see this news. And, by the way, I didn't do the study. It's done by GMU, an independent body. So to me, it has a lot more value coming out from GMU than from Tetra.
Okay, Guy, we're running a little bit late, so we're gonna wrap up here. In terms of news flow, other trial data, what else is in the pipeline? What other catalysts are there for investors to keep an eye on for the next, before September? So the next 4 to 6 weeks. This is, a lot of people think this is going to be a very slow, sleepy summer, but I think there's a lot of exciting things.
Keep your cell phone on vacation. Keep track of Tetra. We never go to sleep. If you look at the Christmas vacation, many times you have surprises between Christmas and New Year's. I'm not the type of guy who doesn't like surprising people. So we're by the book. We don't disclose things ahead of time. But on the 3 fronts, Plenitude, Reborn, Reduvo, any of those could have a news release anytime in the future. And we have other things that we work on, business-wise. People forget about our PanAg unit and their activities with the, CB2 Therapeutics, a major company in the States that we have as a partner, Thorn Research, in New York, many stuff. People have been pushing us as well, in the social media to apply for grants to the NFL, a whole bunch of stuff. So, we listen, we watch what our shareholders say, and, if it is an interesting opportunity, we go for it.
Okay. Bottom line is that there is you get this massive market opportunity, multiple, $50 billion, $100 billion market opportunities that you're addressing. You're getting close to, that commercialization phase, 18 months, 24 months out, whatever it is. So the valuation gap should be increasing between, where the stock is now and, potentially $2 billion or more as we get, towards that, that threshold. So that, and as things get more and more de-risked, we should see the value increase. You got multiple catalysts potentially coming up now, you're saying. Does it maybe, I don't know if it's a hint or not, but between now and Labor Day in the US, people should basically keep an eye on Tetra.
I think you always have to keep an eye on Tetra, because Tetra is making a lot of, progress on intellectual property. We had the interstitial cystitis patent. That's the only one out there be granted. So, that's ours. That's our market. We had our prebiotic that, is in Thorne's hands. We have 2 patents now on the prebiotic use of cannabis raw materials in there. So, there's a lot there. So as a company, it's not our prime activity. It's part of one of our subsidiaries, but, business-wise, we're moving on those. People never read the MD&A, and I don't blame them. It's not an easy read, but I always tell shareholders, when you want to know something about Tetra, go to the MD&A, do a word search, whatever. But you'll see we update it every quarter. There are things in there that obviously get updated that people don't realize. And then we have our ophthalmics. People always forget our ophthalmics, because when I work on my
ARDS we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, guess what? It's the same molecule. So I have an antiviral now. I may have eye drops that have a benefit even with an antiviral. Again, making my drug interesting from an anti-inflammatory point of view. If I have, let's say, an additive effect with an antiviral, I'll have the same thing in the eye. And so if you're going to give dexamethasone in the eye, why not give ARDS? Because it's both anti-inflammatory, non-immunosuppressive, and now, the GMU showed our antiviral properties. So it becomes a very interesting drug candidate. And to me, I'm happy, because each time I see my market size growing.
Okay, Guy, on that note, we're gonna have to wrap up. I think we should catch up in about 2 weeks, and we'll go through all the stuff, the ARDS pipeline, everything, all the trials, all that data. Guy, thank you again. Congratulations on what apparently looks like some pretty significant progress. And we'll see you in about 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Enjoy the summer.
Thank you. Okay, great things at Tetra. Let's get ready for our next exciting presenter today. Let me just pull this up here. Nass Valley. Michael.
Hey, Jack.
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah. I think there might be a slight internet delay coming from Aaron, but okay, we're good. Can you, if you could just let me see. If you can just tilt the camera down a little bit. I want to get you more in center, so we can see you in full glory.
Full glory, just what everybody needs.
And you got you got products behind you. Actually, I just realized you've always had, I think, the products behind you, but now maybe we might do a show and tell. So.
We have a lot of new products since last time we talked.
We're gonna get into all that. So just let me just do a quick intro for the YouTube thing later. Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Investors Discovery Day live stream, July 14th, 2021. We are back with Nass Valley Gateway, an emerging leader in the CBD space, which is like right now an exploding market. And again, for anybody that's new to our program, I know we have a lot of people watching, but our goal is to bring investors those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. So companies going after multi-billion-dollar market opportunities at a key inflection point right now in their growth cycle, and most importantly, multiple catalysts in place which could ignite shareholder value. So Michael, with that said, our investors, I want to kind of get right into the details here. They want to know is what's going to make Nass Valley a 10-bagger or 20-bagger type stock. I mean, the market cap is, I don't know, 30 million, whatever it is. What has to happen, for this to be a, let's say, I don't know, 500 million market cap. So I guess the question is 50 million revenues. I believe would get you to that valuation. So
correct.
That's what I want to talk about. So before we get into the path to the 50 million, how long it's going to take and all that good stuff, in a nutshell, for anybody that's new, what does Nass Valley do? And maybe you can show us also, not just up, you can show us.
I can certainly show. As you can see behind me, we are a consumer products company specializing in CBD products in about 8 different categories. Ranging from pain to anti-aging to hair to skin and so on and so forth. And we have, for the last year, been gearing up for basically this last month and the months to come. We finally have all of our 68 SKUs in the warehouse, full inventory, are shipping products to customers already, and have been ramping up our digital efforts from a marketing standpoint. And for those that have been with us in the past, Jack, we also are doing Nass Valley Direct, which is a direct sales platform, which is had some incredible immediate results. And just in the last couple of weeks, where we launched that.
Direct sales. I know. You don't like that word, multi-level marketing. I love that word. I think it's a great business model where companies can scale. So. And the things I want to do you mind, just for the sake of clarity, because you're doing online sales, which is technically direct sales, MLM. So I'm going to use the word MLM. You can use whatever but I want to use the word because I think it's a great business model. It's a proven method where companies have been able to use that model to scale to. You got Herbalife, you got, a ton of companies that have become, have generated massive amounts of wealth, multi-billion-dollar companies. So you're starting with the MLM model. You're basically putting your.
Well, we're starting with sort of a different model. Yes, there are some elements that harken back to the older models of MLM, but we think it's a much better way of talking about it because it's also that was almost purely going to friends and families and creating a downline within your social community. This is much more of a B2B play. And it's tailored that way, and it's supported that way through corporate. And it's just a different way of, it's a unique way of presenting to potential reps a way of building their own business. So I think that's a differentiator. We're actually creating a business for these people and giving them all the tools and the support to be successful, for themselves. And that, of course, drips down to Nass Valley Gateway and our potential with this model, and not even a very aggressive model in our projections, to create an enormous amount of top line revenue and compensate our representatives extremely well and build a powerful enterprise with this new model.
So basically, you have So maybe if you can show us, before the interview started, I think we were talking about. I think yesterday we were talking about you have some pet products, CBD pet products.
Yeah, we do. We have 4 different SKUs that are basically gummies. They're the ones right here, and they're just little gummies for pets. We also have 3 tinctures.
Show us, Mike. Show us. Bring it out to the camera. We're doing a show.
It's hard to do it correctly.
I don't know if the light will work, but
I don't know. It probably won't. But
oh, look at this. Okay. There you go. That's the back. Okay.
There you go. And these are the actual, you can see that's, part of our strategy to be able to see the product.
Okay.
And realize the count in there. This is just a 10 count product. It's a nice taster. It's a very affordable SKU for us, and it's good for retail stores and people that want to try the CBD products for their pets and for themselves. We also make the same size for humans.
Okay, so this is okay. So it's like a CBD chewable for dogs. Okay, so so one of the interesting things that you're doing that's different in this kind of MLM space is that your kind of your team, the network, they're not just selling to again to the individual consumer. They're going after a small business. So a guy can go to a pet food store or a dog groomer, whatever it is.
Exactly. It's almost endless where they can go. And that's part of our strategy, is to give them the most opportunities, within their community, within their commercial business community also, to go to a spa, to go to the pet shop, to go to the vet, to go to the physical therapist, to go to even a doctor friend of theirs and say, hey, I know some of your patients don't like traditional pharmaceutical therapies. Try this for pain, try this for sleep, try this for skin ailments. So there's numbers of different ways that our products are immediately applicable to a representative's community. And that was really important for us, just not to give them, 8 different products and limit them. We wanted to give them many, many different ways of approaching a marketplace and having many access points, because that to me is broadening the aperture for success.
Okay, and also, a small business, even like I'm going to go back to the pet example. So
Sure.
even like a dog groomer, one of these dog groomer vans or whatever, which these people make a lot of money, right? So one of these people, they could buy a lot more.
Oh yeah,
a lot more of these dummies than an
bricks and
individual.
mortar pet grooming shops are an immediate target. Every town has 1 or 5 or 100, depending on the size.
Again, we were just talking about the dogs. We're not, you got the hair care stuff. You got, this.
Right.
You basically you have this massive product line, which can be taken up by millions and millions of small service businesses, basically service businesses. Correct. Across the country, and all these people, they all are looking for additional revenue streams,
right?
To their existing thing, because one of the things that they discovered with the COVID thing is, hey, when they're shut, they're not making any money. If they have this, they're selling the CBD, the Nass Valley, they get recurring revenues from all their customers. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's a scalable model, and that's one of the things that we loved about it. For preservation of capital, trying to go out into the country and build a sales force, as probably everybody who's watching this knows, is an incredibly arduous, expensive task. And we wanted to, shorten our reach to the consumer. And the best way to do that, there's a couple ways we can do that. Everybody's online these days. And the digital aspect is a huge part of our strategy, not just for selling product, but building our brand. So, for example, a couple of things that we're doing right now is we're going out into a couple major publications. One's called Hemp, one's called Edge, and these serve to people that are interested in products like CBD products nationwide. And we'll get a couple million uniques from each one of those publications for the next few months, which is very exciting from a brand building standpoint. And that's part of it. I mean, just like you're talking about the pet market, well, we still have to sell the humans to get to the pets. So we got to get our name out there, and that's part of our big push this month. Also, in the next few months, while we're building, the e-commerce part of it, and also the direct platform.
Right. No. So you got the news I think you just put out news the other day. Your online sales. You're getting some pretty good traction there. You're starting. I think you said you doubled the revenues. I know It's kind of early stage.
It's very early stage. Remember, we've only had our stable of products for less than a month, basically, and we had a number of products before that, but we've had incredible traction through platforms like Google Ads, and those have doubled since Q1, and that's very encouraging. So we're on the right track. We're converting where we want to convert. Our cost of acquisition's right about where we want to have it, and that's a sort of an interesting equation probably for some of your viewers to know about. Our cost of acquisition's about $117. The average sales about $103. But more importantly to that is our retention and return, customer is ranging, depending on product, from 40 to 60%. Okay. So that's a very powerful annualized client value.
Then you got the lifetime value. So I mean,
it's really
hours doing all
exactly where we want it to be at this point. And we're at the very nascent stages. So we're looking forward to putting more budget against all of these channels in the next 2 quarters, and assume that our conversion is going to go rate's going to go up with additional brand awareness activities with the publications nationwide, and that will lead to additional bigger publications as we progress. And combining that with just last month we already had 60 people signed up for the direct platform, and we've had a couple webinars in the last 2 weeks. I don't have the numbers yet on the final recruiting numbers there, but if we can go into August at 100 plus with very little spend against that, what we're talking about, what the initial question was, how do we get to that 50 million in revenue? We only need 2,500 reps nationwide, only doing 1,500 a month each, which is a very modest number. When we're talking about an average sale online of 100, that's pretty easy to do in our estimation. It's just a couple of B2B accounts. And then you multiply by 12 months, that's $45 million in gross revenue. So that's just the direct model. And then you add in the e-commerce model and our distribution models, we're well over the 50 million number.
Okay, so let's do this, because I think this is the key thing for investors to kind of understand here. Okay, so you have a path to getting to this. I'm just going to round it off to 50 million.
Sure.
So 50 million revenues. There's a path to get to the 50 million revenues. I think when you get to that number, you're going to have a $500 million market cap, assuming you get there, in the next 24. If you can get there in the next 24 months, I believe, with that type of speed, velocity, the market would give you a 500 million market cap. So that would be, basically easily a 10x from here. Plus, you got the other business. But let's talk about that path to get to. If the multi-level marketing model. Walk us through there. How, what's the path to get to that 50 million? How close?
It's all about recruiting. So let's go backwards a little bit on how we think we're going to get there, because that's really, I think, important to your investors. Yep. Yeah, the numbers are important, but we've put together a team that's extremely experienced in MLM and in CBD sales, hemp-based sales. So, and we've just signed on Mike Healy, who's a 22-year vet in recruiting for ML companies. He is nationally known. He's got a major following on his YouTube channel. And he is, he's a paid consultant for Nass Valley now. And we're really excited to have his expertise building these recruiting funnels for us, because that's how you really can exponentially speed up your recruitment efforts. It's not by going and getting, a few guys in a couple of markets and hopefully they go out and get them. This is going to be a 24/7 automated process that Mike is building with us. So we're constantly going to be recruiting all the time, 7 days a week. And this is part of our strategy too. That allows our salespeople to spend their time out selling. Because one of the issues with MLM is people get caught up, well, if I just get a lot of people under me, I don't have to do, a lot of selling myself. We want our people selling. We want them out there in the marketplace, talking to the businesses and building their business for themselves. And what Mike Healy is going to do for us is build an automated recruiting methodology, whereas that's going to free up these guys to do their jobs and build their businesses. And to me, that is a huge differentiator and incredibly exciting. And it really sets us apart.
Yeah, I think,
so with that in mind, to go to your initial question, how do we get there? So if we are projecting we're already going to be at 100 people signed up by August, September at the latest, we're easily in 18 months. All right, if you take that and you put in a 25% attrition rate, which is what we're projecting, we'll easily be within 18 months at that 2,500 number. And granted, not everybody's going to do 1,500 a month. They're going to be doing 10,000 a month.
Some
So
do
we
more,
think
some do
that
less. Yeah.
number is very, very, very small and very conservative.
Okay. I think one of the key things for people to understand is that essentially the team you have, I mean, with these, in the MLM business, it's the team, the manager, that's what it's all about. And you know, besides the product, of course, but essentially what you have is a proven team, you know, guys who have done this, who have built companies from scratch, especially in the CBD space also. So
I mean, we had Jeff Rogers and Troy Dooley on a month ago or so.
Yeah.
And those are proven, you know, experts in both fields. And that's what we're really, I think, is a big point of difference about Nass Valley Gateway. We have the team in place. We have the product in place. You can see the product, touch the product, go on nassvalleyproducts.com, and you will see the full 68 SKUs on there. We are really in a fantastic position. Our digital is coming back strong from an e-commerce standpoint. Our early recruiting numbers, even without the full Mike Healy effect from recruiting, is showing up beautifully. We're ahead of where we thought we would be. So frankly, everything's hitting on all cylinders, and Nass Valley is really poised. This next 18 months can be really exciting. I'm excited just talking about it, frankly, because it's been a lot of hard work getting to where we are. It's, you know, we were slowed up by COVID. That definitely took a bite out of our time. We're 6 months back from where we thought we would be, and now we're where we want to be with all the pieces in place.
Okay. So before we get into audience questions, actually, let's kind of start with some questions here. Mike is asking, is there such a product as CBD chewing gum?
Chewing gum, I believe I've heard of chewing gum. I've heard of those strips that you just put on your tongue. Yeah, like the Listerine strips.
Right. Dissolvable.
They have CBD on them. I've met a couple of people that are producing those. But as you can see, CBD has so many different positive effects for many, many people that, you know, in our products alone, we have other products outside of our core categories, such as massage oil with CBD in it. You know, if you go to a spa, they almost all now offer a CBD massage with CBD oil. So we have a product you can take home. There is coffee now made, and we have a product that is for instant coffee with CBD in it. They're bath bombs. So there's little outlying products that are being made that aren't necessarily in the core categories.
What, you know, one of the big things is this. I think this, which is going to be a huge kind of a gateway to get sales, is this. I kind of talked about it before. Is the pet category, right? You have right now. I think, you know, we had the last few weeks ago. We had Bruce Linton, you know, the CEO of former CEO of Canopy Growth. You know, this guy knows the cannabis space. He's very bullish on CBD for pets because, you know, he's saying that, look, you have now millions and millions of these pets that people have adopted during the COVID thing, and they were with them at home. Now, you know, they're going to be alone.
The numbers are staggering, and that's part of the reason that we decided to get into it. Is there's 80 million plus, I believe, pet owners in the United States of America, and that number's only gone up in the last year, as we all know, because every single pet adoption agency was empty for months, as it was a national story, and hopefully they'll stay empty. But it's an enormous marketplace, and there's lots of different ways of going about it. And certainly the direct sales part is going to be a fantastic way of going into that, because of the entry points and how these people with their social networks and B2B networks can go directly to it.
Yeah, I think that could be like a big, you know, again, a big driver for the MLM sales and everything else, because again, once somebody's, you know, the pet has the separation anxiety, you know, if they leave the dog at home, you know, when they go to work, and they give you the CBD, they give the dog the CBD gummies, all of a sudden it works there. You know, then all of a sudden they're I think, you know, people.
Well, I have for example, this is and not to, people need to try the products on their own pets, but I have a 13-year-old Labrador. I've been a dog owner my entire life. Multiple dog owner, and she had some terrible, you know, common with labs, you have issues with your hips. and I started giving her a product that had a stronger dose of CBD in it. And I take her out every single morning at 6:45 for a walk, and she has reacted beautifully. We're going for longer walks. She gets up quicker. It's definitely changed her behavior. And I'm not saying it's the magic elixir. I'm just saying it's a great anti-inflammatory for pets and humans alike. And I wouldn't necessarily just say that unless I'd seen it myself.
So which product is it? Is it on the shelf behind you?
I believe it's the 1,000 milligram tincture. I don't see it back there. I don't see one. I've got darn near everything else up there. But yeah, it's just good. NassValleyProducts.com. It's on the website.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So we kind of pretty much, I think, covered everything. You got 60 something SKUs now. So again,
68 SKUs.
You have, the more sales you can make, the more, it's kind of a virtuous cycle. If somebody tries one product, all of a sudden they have 62 others that they could get into later. So it builds on itself.
And that's what we love about it. It seems like, we are getting, that 40 to 60% return customer, depending on product, is very favorable. That's right in the sweet spot where we need it to be.
Okay. Michael, what's, before we wrap up here, what else what do you have in the news pipeline that we could look forward to in the next, 4 to 6 weeks?
Well, I think the next month is going to be very telling once we do another 4 weeks of recruiting for Nass Valley Direct, because that's obviously key to top line revenue, is getting these people out. It's also probably be interesting to your subscribers is that, within that program, each one of these people signs up an annual $50 fee just to get the training, to get the websites, the marketing that we do for them, etc. They also buy a value kit. So they buy product themselves. And something we're surprised about is that, there are different levels of value kits that we offer each rep when they come into the company. So just getting a rep itself is fantastic. We're excited about the potential of that person to sell, obviously, and we're going to put a lot of time to make sure they're successful. But they're also buying, we have $250, $400, $500, $600 value packs that they buy if they so choose. They don't have to, but if they so choose, and we're finding that 70 or 80% out of the chute are buying a $300 to $600 value pack as they sign up, and that's not included in any of the projections that we have. So that's something that's been surprising to us, and really interested to see what the next month brings if that trend continues. And it's also an opportunity for our managers when we do bring somebody on and we're training them, that they'll buy the $50 annual fee, and that gives us an opportunity to get on the phone with them and say, hey, do you realize you really need some product to go out and show people? Why don't you try a low-end value pack? This is what that's made up of. So there's a whole nother stream of revenue from the direct sales piece that we don't really acknowledge. But if you add that up, that's another $5 or $6 million over that 18-month period.
Okay, so basically, I think that the takeaway is that it's been kind of off to a bit of a slow start. I mean, we're not going to deny it's been a slow start to get here, but the company is now at that inflection point where the revenues, you're kind of, a couple things are happening. One is you're really kind of getting the online sales model drilled down. So the online sales, we're starting to see some traction,
conversion, and the positive
optimization, and importantly, you have the MLM team that's in place, the recruiting, the team is growing, and we're going to start to seeing some numbers. And I think, so in theory, the next probably 2-3 months is really going to be that turning point where people are going to see some, substantial numbers. Probably, I would say maybe by September, October, we could see 7-figure type numbers coming out from the company, revenues.
Yeah, I mean, October, November, for 7 figures, I would say, the late fall.
Okay.
I would love to see that. We're projecting in that area. It's all about, as you build something and you're ready for it just to pop, and it takes a little bit of time. And certainly
it always takes longer than
everything takes longer in life. We all know that by now at our age.
Right. So okay. So everything is there now. So now basically at this point we just have to.
You back?
I think. Yeah.
I lost you for a second.
Okay. Yeah. The internet froze. Okay. So the bottom line, I think the takeaway here is that everything is now on track. The company is moving forward, and we should see some significant numbers probably by October or November, where we could see which can have an impact on the stock. So okay,
and we'll be reporting quarterly, and it's all on SEDAR for people to see, and we're looking forward to putting up some numbers.
Excellent. Okay, Michael, on that note, I want to thank you, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the next 6 weeks with a follow-up on the MLM side.
Terrific. Thanks, Jack. Everybody go to nassvalleyproducts.com. Got to give it a look. Some fantastic products for everybody.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay, let's get ready for Matt Stank. All right. Oh, new background. Matt, where are you?
I am in my house.
It's usually dark. Now we got light.
A little light, right?
So amazing. Okay, hang on. Let me get everything set up here for you. Let me just get this. Okay, where is Delic? Okay, we got everything spelled correctly, right? Just to make sure.
Yes, everything is spelled correctly.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Let me get this back up at the top of the screen here. Okay, and we get that. We got your name here. Everything is ready. Okay.
It's all there.
And we got good lighting, so we can actually see you.
Thank you.
Full glory with the daylight, California light.
Some California light, some nice sunshine.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let me just do a quick intro for the YouTube, and we'll get into it.
Perfect.
Welcome, everybody, to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, July 14th. We are back with Delic Holdings, DELCF, over-the-counter DELC in Canada. And again, our goal is to bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside. Companies are going after multi-billion-dollar market opportunities at a key inflection point in the growth with multiple catalysts in place. So Delic definitely meets those three. We checked off those three boxes, and we're going to kind of get into all the details, get an update. Matt, last week, you closed the acquisition of the ketamine clinics.
That is right. We closed our acquisition of ketamine infusion centers, known as KIC.
Okay.
So we now own a chain of ketamine infusion centers in California and Arizona.
And I'll tell you what's interesting here is this is actually an important milestone before we get into talk about all the numbers. But really, Delic is one of the few pure play psychedelic companies that are generating real legitimate revenues right now.
That's right. That's really we really want to be known as a company that is not looking for 5 to 7 years down the future, but really building something for today, and being that pipeline and that infrastructure play for all of those folks who are developing novel compounds. We see ourselves being the largest chain of clinics in America. Obviously, ketamine being the lead, but beyond that, we think all of these novel molecules that'll be pushed through FDA in the next couple of years will need a place to go. And that's what we want to build, is a giant nationwide chain of clinics.
No, yeah, we're going to get into the whole, because you have a very interesting model. We've talked about it before. Like, maybe we'll get into it for again. We always have new people, so we'll recap it. But again, it's very important, because essentially there is with this acquisition, you're going to have, I think, you're going to have how many of these psychedelic clinics are you going to have in the next 12 months up and running?
I would say in the next 12 months, we should have somewhere between 15 and 25. So
15 and 25. And you got, I think, how many do you have right now, and how many are opening?
So there are 2 in the deal, and we've announced another 2 beyond that. will be announcing their location shortly. And then, we see a direct path to scaling this out across the country. So I'll be coming back to you regularly as we announce these things, because I think it's going to be really impressive. And, the business itself is pretty straight line from, getting people in the door to actually making revenue and earning money. And I think that's something that a lot of folks are kind of jumping into psychedelics looking for, just splashy news. We're really focusing on building legitimate long-term growth businesses. And I think that's just amazing.
And you kind of have this kind of three-part, like this ecosystem. We're going to get into that ecosystem. But again, it's very interesting because you have this pure play, the psychedelic pure play ecosystem. The labs, I'm just gonna call them psychedelic labs.
It's called Delic Labs. We've rebranded it.
No, not the labs. The clinics.
The clinics.
The clinics are going to be called Delic Labs.
No, the lab up in Canada has been rebranded.
The lab is Delic. Yeah.
Yep.
But the clinics, the psychedelic clinics, you're going to have basically 4 operating next few. You have 2. You're going to have probably 4 in a couple of months.
Yep.
Because I think you
that is correct.
Okay, and the goal is to get to 25. Ideally in the next 18. And again, how much does each clinic generate? Can it generate?
Yeah, so it runs usually somewhere between $600 and $1 million, $600 grand and $1 million. And I like to think that with our ecosystem, we can push that up closer to $1 million, $1 million too. Okay. And, just kind of owning our own, media properties, events, and really having that kind of direct connection with consumers allows us to help people kind of go on their journey. So we start, at Reality Sandwich. People can come in and learn more about psychedelics. They can come to our event, meet Delic, and really kind of interact with and feel it. And then they can go to our clinics and actually get psychedelic wellness. So, I think that's the thing that is really key is building that trust and respect and understanding with consumers that, this is something new. It's brand new, but it's also incredibly effective. And people are a little bit nervous and they're not really sure. And so it's just making it feel comfortable and safe and feeling like there is an opportunity to help with your mental health. And that's just so important to us.
And you know what, though? It's interesting because you have this ecosystem, then your customers, it becomes very sticky because, we're going to kind of dive into more about the ecosystem, but in terms of revenues, if you have 25 labs, let's say $1 million each per year, you could be at a 25 million run rate, this time next year.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of our plan is to push for that.
And that could be worth. So again, the market is giving psychedelic stocks crazy valuations right now. And it's just getting started. I think we're still in the early stages. And there's nobody out there who's really generating any meaningful revenues here, right? So if you can show, even 10 million, but if you're getting to 25 million plus, you can get a 20x multiple. So I mean, you would get like a 500 million valuation, and we've had plenty of companies, in our sort of live streams that have started at 50 million, they got to 300 million, market caps quickly. So there's a clear path for you here.
Yeah, I think it's super clear to me that just executing on our vision and our plan will get us to a place of really meaningful revenue and a really meaningful cash flow so that we're a sustainable long-term business. And I think what happens when you do that is you build a stock that is really valuable. So, we see a direct line path with the work we're doing and the deals we're doing to get ourselves to a pretty substantial market cap just following this kind of straight line progression and building and we have really great team and a really great marketing side and I think the ecosystem is just a really important part of this. It's having
we're going to get into we're going to go into the ecosystem, but if you but the 500 million essentially that would right now the market cap is what is like 15 million.
Yeah, it depends on how you do the fully diluted, but somewhere in the $20-25 million range.
Okay, so there's a 20x built in right now. There's a 20x upside potential in the stock. All you got to do is get those 25 clinics open. The stock is going to be 20x from here. I mean, again, this is not investment advice. We're saying that based on what the market is. But that's just one aspect of the business. We've got to get into the whole ecosystem now. So the ecosystem, you have an events side, the media side of the business, which we talked about a little bit, and now you had some news. You're doing a big event in Las Vegas in November. Give us the whole media business.
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of the whole. And
your background, you were the High Times guy. You ran High Times.
I was the owner and operator of High Times for many years, and ran the events business and the media business. So what I see is a similar progression, right? You have a gray or black market that is turning white. So you have this moment of people not really knowing what's trustworthy, what's good, and what's best. And so what we've done is over the last 2 years built up a really strong media presence. Reality Sandwich is the name of the website, and it has 400,000 or 500,000 people a month coming to it looking for information about psychedelics. Now we've launched Meet Delic. It's in Las Vegas, November 6th and 7th. It's going to be the world's largest psychedelic wellness conference. We have just a ton of incredible people. We have Jason Silva, who's a network host on National Geographic and a famous podcaster. We have Duncan Trussell, who's a comedian and has his show on Netflix 3 months ago that was the top of the charts. We have, just a bunch of folks who are not known for psychedelics. They're known for mainstream kind of.
Are you gonna have Joe Rogan? Are you gonna have Joe Rogan there?
We're having his partner come out, Aubrey Marcus, who is his partner in Onnit, the supplement business.
Oh, right, the supplement. That's his big business.
So Aubrey Marcus is coming and keynoting the event. So he's very, very involved in that confluence of wellness and psychedelics. So that's really where we want to be is like giving people that access to the confluence of wellness, a $4 trillion industry, and psychedelics, which is still just $1 billion industry. But we think as people understand that this is a component of overall wellness, the pie just gets so much bigger.
And so it's okay. So this is November
6th and 7th in Las Vegas. It's at a place called Area 15. It's the world's largest interactive art exhibit. They built a $250 million psychedelic art installation in the middle of Las Vegas.
It's right off the strip.
Right off the strip.
If I want to understand, it's basically people go. They take pictures. It's like an Instagram place.
It is the most Instagrammable place. It's sold out every day because it's so Instagrammable. It's amazing. It's like Disney World for adults,
and it's all very psychedelic. I mean, I've seen pictures. It looks very
super psychedelic. And so we're taking over that space for 2 days and turning that into the world's largest psychedelic wellness conference. So it's a place for you to interact with both the art, the people. There's going to be an entire 2-day summit on business and psychedelics because obviously people are very interested in that. So we'll be announcing those panels next week. And we also have the founder of Compass, the largest publicly traded psychedelics company, and his, the co-founders, husband and wife team, coming out and talking. And, I just think we're trying to bring together all of the different aspects of psychedelics in one place because it's as you go from black to gray to white, there's a bunch of these interesting new things that come out of bringing people together in one place. And since COVID, it's been difficult, but I think people are coming back together again, and we want to really make it a gathering space. And by being at the center of that and the place that everyone comes to, we have a very strong competitive advantage for what we're doing because we now bring everyone together under our banner. And now people come, they see our best-in-class services, they see our clinics, they see our labs, and they're able to go and interact with those things. And, if they need psychedelic wellness, they can go to one of our clinics. If they need research and development, they can go to our labs up in Canada. And I really think that this is an important part of building a really strong ecosystem that keeps, it's like a pinwheel. You look at any of the larger businesses in tech and in most of these spaces, it really does create self-reinforcing.
They do actually, all the big tech companies, they do an annual event, like Apple. Everybody does a big event once a year to bring all the developers and all. it's very, very, beneficial. So this makes a lot of sense for what you're doing. And of course, deal flow for other acquisitions you might be making.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, I can't.
Basically, it positions you as doing the conference positions you as the thought leader in the industry.
Exactly, and just like Allen and Company does their, the event that's happening right now, and now they're at the center of every media and tech deal just because of that. I think having the mainline event that brings all these people together is really going to make it an incredible experience, right? And
I think a lot of people in our audience, they don't know about the Allen, but they've heard about TED, the TED Con. So you're like the TED conference of psychedelics.
Yeah, we're doing like TED Talks.
Like TED of psychedelics, basically.
Sure, yeah. And I think that's part of this is just gathering knowledge and really incredible people. I'm super excited. There's a Dr. Carl Hart who wrote Drug Use for Grown-Ups, New York Times bestseller. He's coming. He's one of the most interesting people I've ever talked to. We just have what we really looked for were people who are incredibly interesting and can talk for an hour and you hang on their every word. You're not just listening to someone's double-spaced pitch that they're reading from their notes. You know what I mean? There's a big difference for us, and we're really trying to make it super engaging and fun. And so, I think it's just going to be in a really incredible way to bring people together and make this, just a bigger, better, more interesting kind of sector, right? And by being at the center of a sector, you get, as you said, tons of deal flow, tons of opportunity. And, that's really where we want to be, as we're an acquisitive company that's growing quickly, and we really want to keep pushing that. And I think, when you talk about what's possible, I think you're right. We have, just from our current businesses, millions of dollars in cash flow yearly. And I think just with the growth that we can push in and the way people are valuing revenue in the psychedelic space, I think we're going to be one of the, if not the biggest clinic operators in the country by the end of next year. And you'll see that valuation come from it.
Yeah, 25 clinics is, that's not like a huge amount even. It's not that, that difficult to do. So get the stock.
The other part that's really interesting is, I think you have to think about how many people need this service. So I don't know if you saw the studies that came out last week about the increase in depression and suicidal ideation in the last year. And
it's off the charts.
It's like, I've been talking about it, but there are hard numbers. It's like 4x where it was the year before, 5x. So there's now like 50 to 80 million people in this country who need our services. And one of these clinics can only work through about maybe 200 people a month. So there's just so much room for us to expand. When you ask, hey, how many of these can you do? It's not limitless, but there's a ton of room to expand. And there's a ton of room to really bring this in. And then that's just with ketamines. With ketamine infusions. Now, when you bring in psilocybin and MDMA, which we think is sometime late next year, it just expands exponentially from there, because you have, PTSD and depression and mental anguish and cancer treatment. And, there's so many things that I don't know if you saw the study that came out 2 days ago about psilocybin rebuilding neural pathways and neural connections. So you actually rebuild your brain. So what about that when I talk about wellness? Like, who doesn't want to rebuild their brain? Now, you're getting a little older, you're getting a little slower. Come on, Jack, you forgot that, right? You probably need to go in and get a mushroom treatment and rebuild.
I do. I got to take some mushrooms. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's kind of incredible, and that's what we see as a huge opportunity as we.
You actually have. You already have. The whole psychedelic thing is. We talked. You brought it up. It's becoming a very mainstream. Like, guys in Silicon Valley, they're doing the microdosing, right? The PTA moms in Tiburon and Mill Valley, In
Mill Valley, that's right. Getting their $1,000 microdose kits from White Rabbit, which I don't want to shout them out because they're not really a real business, but there's companies like that popping up all over because they've decriminalized mushrooms in 25 jurisdictions. So people are just like, well, it seems like we should probably just start a little thing. And there's super high-end packaged goods that are going into, I've heard about this from people. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
And this is basically also the business that this is the other leg of your ecosystem is that you got the labs, you're going to be developing, consumer packaged goods, mushroom products, psychedelic products.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's yeah, and I can really, since we've taken over Delic Labs, that acquisition closed a couple of weeks ago. We've rebranded as Delic Labs, and we've really pushed forward into this work, which I think is incredible. I'm so excited. We've got mushroom vaporization, which is just such an interesting way to get quick onset, quick offset, and really, kind of develop novel IP that we can license off to folks in these states that are allowing, like Oregon, like California and Colorado probably will, like some of the Caribbean is. There's going to be places that leapfrog FDA approval and just say, hey, similar to cannabis 25 years ago, hey, you don't have time to wait 2 years for this to get pushed through, and you need this for your depression, you need this for your PTSD, you need this for whatever of the multiple different things psilocybin can help with. And so there's a lot of push to allow a natural substance like psilocybin through. And what does that do? That really makes people super responsive and, having. So there's this thing, right? If you look at magic mushrooms, they're kind of disgusting because they're a fungus that grows in usually some form of cow patty or some form.
When you think about it, the mushrooms, basically people associate mushrooms with shit. I mean, to be right.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to be classy about it, but yes, it grows in shit, literally. So what we think is that there's this huge opportunity to build novel products that don't require you to eat shit, right? So like if we're gonna have a product that is a packaged good that people will appreciate, you're gonna need to have things that think outside of the physical mushroom. So we're working on.
So basically, you're saying the physical mushroom is not going to be the thing that people are going to consume. They're not going to be into that. It's too it's a little too nasty.
Yeah,
they want something nice and clean. That's very
exactly. Well, you look at cannabis now, and vapes and pre-rolls and edibles have sucked up like 70% of the market, right? And why is that? Flower is still beautiful, but people don't want to smell like weed. They don't want to roll a joint. They don't want to smoke weed. They want something.
It's kind of like do you want to go to a steakhouse and get the steak, or do you want to butcher the cow?
Exactly.
Or hunt it.
You want to go with a bow like Joe Rogan and hunt the thing and cut it down.
Right.
No, that's like 2% of 1%.
Right. You want it on a plate, nice and clean. You don't want to know how it happened. You want to just never hear it.
Exactly. So I think there's just such that part of this, and then also dosage, right? Because if you're just taking mushrooms, how do you know how much it is, how much of the active ingredient, what does it do to you? Whereas a lot of this is microdosing, middle dosing, macro dosing. There's a lot of talk around how there's very different experiences in all three of those. So it's really about having an incredibly precise dosage model, so you don't have to think about it.
So it's going to be, the delivery is all going to be these packaged products. It's not going to be raw mushrooms.
I think those will still exist. Yeah, just like flower still exists for cannabis, but I think there's just a huge opportunity to build novel IP utilizing our.
Also, it's branding, differentiation. That's really.
Exactly, right.
Consistency, the whole
dosability. It allows people who would not be open to just eating a bag of mushrooms to feel like, okay, I can have this one mushroom vape. I can take 2 hits and I can be high for 35 minutes, process some of my stuff, and then be done for the night and be like, wow, that was amazing and revelatory, and I'm through. Versus having no idea what's going to happen and just eating a mushroom and just being completely kind of stuck on whatever ride it gives you. And I think it's really about making it accessible, safe, and available to folks who are looking for this wellness in a way that's packaged well and clean and well thought out. And I think it's just really important for people.
Okay. And you have the Delic Labs, this acquisition you closed. So they're generating revenues right now. How much are they? What kind of numbers are they doing right now? I think we talked about it
over $1 million run rate for the year, and I see it growing every month. So really spectacular execution on the business there, and I love the team, and they're really doing a great job of expanding outwards and being that research organization that companies can outsource to. And I think it's just super important to have an incredibly efficacious group of scientists that you can go to, and they can solve problems for you in the psychedelic space and in the cannabis space. And that's what they've made their name on, and it's a really growing business.
Okay, and those guys. So you're developing that vaporized psilocybin, and then the other part of the business I think we talk about, which is interesting, is this clinical data that you're going to be able to get.
Yeah.
Not clinical, but basically data.
Yeah. So
data.
I think I wouldn't call it clinical data. I would call it consumer experience data, right?
To be sold to.
Right. Exactly. So we think there's a huge opportunity as we develop products to really go out and capture data through our consumer portal. So we own, as I said, 400,000 or 500,000 consumers a month coming through and looking at our websites, and hundreds of thousands on our emails. And so as we come up with and deploy products, we'll be able to put a front-facing kind of data collection setup on the site, so people can utilize the products and then give feedback on how they work and how they affected them, and they're really what it does for them. And what that does is collect tens of thousands of consumer data points that are greater than any phase 3 clinical trial. Obviously, they're not strictly randomized, but there's such a preponderance of data and evidence that they can give people what amounts to a clinical trial level data, and we're able to own that and then package it with IP we own. So we think that that's just got another little bump that we can do in the next year or two that really is very interesting. Okay,
and in case anybody doesn't know, can you just throw out some of the numbers that this type of business can generate?
Yeah, I've had some
licensing, royalties, all that stuff.
Conversations with folks in the pharmaceutical licensing world, and it's $30, $50, $100 million per instance, and they'll buy 3 instances, meaning they'll buy for this instance, for that instance. So basically saying, hey, we'll buy this for transdermal, for vaporization, and for pill form, because we think your data is strong and we want to own the IP that you've put together so that no one can come behind it. And we'll put it into phase 1 clinical trials, but we'll have all the data so we know we're not risking anything, because we see 80% efficacy, 72% efficacy. So now we know going into this that we have a blockbuster and it's worth licensing, because that's what these big pharmaceutical companies do. They don't do the early research anymore. They're just a buy kind of company. They're there to roll in. They're a bank for pharmaceuticals, right? So they look for stuff that cracks 50, 60% efficacy, because they know if they can get that, they'll be able to push it through FDA in the next couple of years.
Okay. So yeah, it's very exciting. Okay. So basically the bottom line is, it looks like there's we got a clear path to a $5 stock price, assuming you get these 25 clinics open, it could even happen earlier. I mean, even if you get to 10 clinics, I think once you have 10 clinics, at that point, there's going to be that, what's the term? The Minsky moment? I don't know what they use that but there's going to be that moment people are going to say, oh shit, these guys are for real. And they're going to see, oh, if they got 10 clinics, they get to 25, plus they got the other stuff. And then, obviously the stock starts running ahead. That's the way these things happen. When do you think you can get to that 10 clinics?
I mean, I will be back here to announce it to you, and okay. I think it'll be hopefully sooner rather than later. So I'm super bullish that we'll be there fairly soon with what we have in our pipeline.
Okay, because you know how it works is the market always overshoots or undershoots. So either it's going to get either way ahead of itself, or it's going to drop. Like right now, the stock is really low. It's it's kind of, people assume it's almost like they're assuming there's nothing there, right?
Yep.
Once you get 10 clinics, the market is going to extrapolate 100. I think when you get to 10 clinics, the stock would be probably $3, $4. I
think it's going to overshoot. If they don't if the market doesn't see that, then hopefully other people will, and they'll make a bunch of money as the market sees it, because it's a trailing game, right? So we'll get the clinics, and then we'll start reporting the numbers, and then I think it'll shoot up because it's a really strong kind of business, right? You have a recurring revenue that keeps growing, and you have
scalable,
super scalable,
and you can crank these
not
out.
a ton of SG&A and corporate stuff. Once you get beyond like 8 or 9 clinics, you have a built-in team, and the scaling from there is just adding clinics, right? So it's just boots on the ground and spaces.
They want to see that. They want to see that kind of reproducible model, that kind of retail, sort of like the McDonald's, franchise model. You crank these out. So so I think I may have interrupted you. When did you say you're going to have the 10 clinics?
I think, obviously, once again, I can't announce material non-public information without putting out a press release, but I think you'll be one of the first to hear it, and it will be fairly soon. So
okay. How soon? How soon? Next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? How soon, Matt?
I would say sometime in that frame line. I think your guess is fairly close. I just don't. Once again, I don't want to be the person who says something that pushes me outside of what I'm allowed to announce publicly. Right. Okay,
that's what we try to do here.
I know. Well,
I
can say we are getting there, and we will be on this show to announce it, and I think you'll be very happy with the results and how quickly we scale to those levels and then beyond, really.
Okay, so it's in the pipeline at some point.
It's in the pipeline, and it's
we'll leave it at that.
In that timeline that I think we can get there.
Okay, because I think 10 clinics that's the catalyst for a $3 price, because I think it's like because they're going to see that and say, okay, 10 clinics equals 10 million revenues. It's 100, at least 100 million market cap, right? That's like basically 10x from here.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling, is that this.
I think the stock would probably get to to be conservative, $150 to $250 in that range if you have 10 clinics right now, because the market is a little weak right now. The overall micro cap market is a little weak today.
Yep.
So you'd be at in the $150 to $250 range with 10 clinics.
I think so too, and that's what we're working on pushing through. And I think we have the team, the strategy, and the pipeline to get it there fairly quickly. So I will be on to flog that announcement and make sure that everyone knows, because I think it's really an incredible opportunity for people to be part of this as it grows.
Okay, excellent. Matt, I think on that note, we'll wrap up on that and hopefully get you back with some other big news shortly.
Yeah, I will be back for sure.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Matt, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining our live stream, and we will see you all very soon on the next one.